quest.
You get to hit Imperials with blow darts too.
That's true. You do get to shoot Imperials, which I still feel bad about. I don't think they deserve that.
All right, let's go back to our phone lines. We've got Piggy McSquee of Sergeant Tannis hanging on the line.
Speaking of animal calling
in on Discord. What's up, Piggy?
Nothing much, guys. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Thanks for calling in.
I wanted to backcheck to the hunt.
Okay.
And let me tell you, instead of doing the level 70 dungeon / trials, I've been just doing the hunt. I feel like I can get more variety out of the hunts faster than one dungeon.
I think that's especially because there are 3 instances in every zone, so the hunts are popping double time or triple time.
Yeah.
And just the fact of getting grade 6 materia just outclasses the fact I can just get the 310 armor through the variety I'm getting.
Is it just me, or does Piggy have a way more normal voice than you were anticipating?
Yeah. I mean, we took a call from him last week. So
fair enough.
Yeah. Good job showing
If you're
up.
paying attention.
Anyway, I mean,
are you excited to be doing hunts again, though?
No, that's the thing. Is that like this is the same?
Well, you are. Why?
I just like hunting. Like, it lets me see more of, like, I mean, even knowing like they all have set spawns, I get to enjoy the zones a little bit more. It gives me
I mean, I like seeing the new hunts the first time I see one. Like, oh wow, this hunt's so cool and big, and then the next time I see him, I'm totally.
I'm a little bit with Piggy here, because there is a certain sense to hunts that you do have to come together with a group of people, and at least when you're finding hunts until guild work is up and running, there's a sense of like working together. I once said that the reason that I don't like dungeons is because every time you go into a dungeon, it's the same run every single time. Right? You don't have to communicate with anybody on any level, but at least when you're doing hunts, they pop in different places. You're trying to track them down. And obviously earlier in the expansion, when everyone's doing them, they just die super quick. But as that starts to die down, you sometimes even have to start utilizing actual tactics in order to take down certain hunts. So, I mean, I get it, but it is still something we've done before.
I mean, like,
plus there's a new mount.
Well, I mean,
wait, what?
Yeah, there's new mount, but like,
yeah, is it good? Piggy,
because I didn't recognize your name, and maybe you changed from an old name. But like, how long have you been playing? Out of curiosity.
I've been playing a little bit over a year, but I've server hopped a few times. I think this is my 4th server.
Okay, so you haven't been doing you weren't doing hunts at the beginning of Heaven's Word either.
No.
Okay, so you came in with then maybe then I can understand why you might be excited to do hunts, but like, I've been doing hunts now since 2.0, and I'm tired of hunts.
Yeah.
Well, 2.1.
Well, hunts didn't come out.
2.1, whenever they came out.
Yeah, like that's the thing for the people who've been doing them concurrently. As they kind of get expanded over time, this shit is like, we're on the 3rd iteration of this.
Yeah,
who who?
I'd like to see what the hunt looks like the first time. Like, whenever I hear a new hunt name called, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I want to go see what he looks like. And then after that, I give no shit.
And then you're done. Like, once I know what they all are,
But it's like if someone tells me, give it to Square Enix for finally putting something in the hunts that will hopefully keep them relevant a little bit longer,
which is
tier 6 materia. Yeah.
How much are those going for on servers?
Tier 6?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I haven't even dared. I've not dared to check.
Have you not sold them?
I'm keeping them because I'm going to use them.
Oh my god, that's so dumb economically.
All right, chat, rattle off for us what our tier 6
don't tell me it's so dumb. I need to be ready for raiding this day it comes out. I'm not going to sell my materia right now.
Sell it right now because it's worth the most literally right now.
It's actually not, because everybody's getting them. Like, especially the tier 5s, which are going to go back up because you can't overmeld tier 6s, I don't believe. So right now, tier 5s are worth like 3K, but I guarantee you, give it a month or two, tier 5s are going to be worth a lot more.
Yeah, actually, it looks like on most people's servers, they're going for about what tier 5s were going for as well.
Okay,
once less people are like spamming dungeons and spamming hunts, and once there's less hunts to go around because the instances will go away, the price will go up because the demand will go up and there'll be less.
Yeah, but as servers naturally empty out as the expansion goes on, I just feel like the bottom falls out of so many markets because you have regular and predictable outputs for all of these things that you're talking about.
The more time that passes, the more supply that's going to be pumped into the system.
Exactly. Yes.
But it's not going to with these. There's going to be less people doing hunts. There's going to be less hunts in general.
But they will probably end up putting in. They'll put in more ways to get the tier 6s. Like, for example, when Ivalice comes out, right? You'll probably get something at the end of an Ivalice raid you can go turn in for tier 6 material.
I mean, maybe.
I mean, definitely, but no. right at the start of a
you're
raid
gonna-
coming out, that is the time that's going to be worth the most.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the raiders have all of their materia, the demand's going to bottom out, and supply's just going to keep pumping in.
And it'll also depend too on how well the raid's received. If you have a really strong reception to your raid, you'll see that market stay strong for a while. But if it's people don't like it,
If it's gorgeous?
man,
Oh,
if
yeah,
it's gorgeous, it's gonna
plummet.
plummet.
You're gonna hit the bottom real quick. Anyway, Piggy, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. One other thing that I wanted to mention, it's weird because we're into the third iteration of things like hunts and fates and dungeons.
Ugh.
And it feels like that's really kind of like, in terms of content injections, that's all really we've gotten. We've gotten updates on things that we've had for a long time.
Right.
Now, when you compare it against FF11, and again, some of it is probably rose-colored glasses. I'm totally willing to admit that. But it seems like, if you transpose hunts for NMs, right, notorious monsters,
Sure,
that in the same way, Final Fantasy XI kind of did that, where it's like you had a new type of notorious monster that would be introduced, but the difference would be the way that you end up spawning it, or the pop it, the spawn items or whatever you had to
how
investigate.
impossible it was to kill.
Yeah.
Well, BCNMs to KSNMs to ENMs.
Right.
What else?
Dick NMs.
But so my question is, and because anyone who played that game knows that's kind of intrinsically true. But my question is why did that feel kind of fundamentally more satisfying, where we just got different conditions under which mobs would pop in, and then it would be kind of similar fights almost every single time? Like, there were some dynamics that you had to respond to. There was some different mechanics, but that was like different mechanics would come out like once every 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a very responsive game.
Yeah.
So why were those systems received so much more, like positively than even Heaven's Word? Like Heaven's Word, we started to recognize like, oh, this is just the same shit. Mm-hmm. And then, moving on to Stormblood, we're kind of identifying that same pattern. And I'm just saying, like, it's not satisfying to me. I think that's what I'm hearing from you guys as well. Why is that? Because
difficulty. That's what it comes down to. Difficulty.
I don't know
How
about
many
that.
hunts do you kill in a single night, right? Like, rack them up. For some people, it's probably close to 100. You could do 100 hunts in a single night if you put the effort into it. How many NMs could you do in a single night in Final Fantasy XI? Nowhere near as many.
Like 3, maybe?
Yes,
Depends.
it's the difficulty of it. That's what it comes
but that's
down to.
not. Hang on, that's not difficulty.
FF11 was not difficulty though.
Yeah.
That was scarcity
availability.
and in availability. Yeah, of like you just wanted to create competition between different link shells and just piss you off.
The
There was
competition, you're right.
I mean, the competition was part of it, I think, but it wasn't difficulty. However,
Well, here's the other thing too: is along with ENMs came Limbus and C. ENMs were your baseline, maybe to make some money or to get some extra gear, but like it was all based around gearing up for Limbus and C.
But if you remember in FF11, before we had that, of course, we had Sky, and then the end-all be-all was Ground Kings, right? Like during Rise of Zillar, you had Sky that a higher percentage of your endgame community was doing, and then you had the super tight focused Ground Kings
And Dynamis.
and
forget Dynamis.
Dynamis.
It's casual endgame.
It was a different. No. Like Dynamis at that time definitely was endgame, but it was a different thing because you needed so many more resources to be able to participate in that.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like you could have. And again, the requirements were different, but you could have, like your middle tier players starting with Dynamis, then moving on to Sky, and then finally
I think
graduating.
that's what I did.
Yeah, everyone hit level 65 and said like, wait, I can do something that isn't partying. Get me in that Dynamis run.
Right.
Yeah,
No, that's true.
More
That's
of a
true.
variety then?
Yes, that's always what we've been saying. This game needs more variety. 11 didn't have the best content, but it had a variety of content. So you could have a Dynamis link shell, an Harrier link shell, a Savage link shell, and just if those are the only 3 that you liked, and ignore everything else. Or you can have a Ground King, Sky, whatever, and just do the content that you liked. And now, at first, we were giving 14 the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, it's only its first expansion. Like, 11 didn't get all this variety until so many expansions, but now we're into it's like essentially 14's third expansion.
Yeah.
I'm still having fun with the content that's in the game, but the thing is, you get burnout and bored simply because there's not variety.
But it is.
Are you having fun with the content, or are you having fun with your friends?
Okay, it's both. Like, the content that's in the game, the end game rating that's in the game is not bad content. It's fun. Like, especially creator people said was fun. But when it is the only content, when it is the only end game, you get burnout and bored really fast. Not that the content itself is bad or shouldn't exist. It just needs a variety.
But I mean, like,
if we had this current content plus something else we could do, like 2 other types of endgame content, I think nobody would be bitching about it.
But what is Diadem and Palace of the Dead if not an attempt at that?
Palace of the Dead is not endgame.
I'm not saying. Oh, okay, that's fair. Not necessarily.
Diadem was.
It was an attempt.
Trying.
It was an attempt. Yeah, no, it was an attempt.
Swing and a miss.
Yeah, and it didn't go well, and that's fine. And it's fine that it didn't. But the thing,
they need to like not let that be like, oh, we tried, we failed, fuck it, we're just gonna do more of the same. No, keep trying. Keep trying.
My question is, and Farian, I see your call here. We'll get to you in a minute, but I want to make sure that I'm projecting this properly.
Sure.
Okay, because the question that I'm asking is not. Like I'm not suggesting in any way that NMs need to be brought into FF14.
I'm just a 1-to-1 ratio.
Exactly. I'm just drawing a comparison to, okay, well, we've gotten another tier of hunts. Is it because there's no new popping mechanics, that there's no new, like, there's nothing new that's coming along with hunts? It's literally just an identical copy and paste iteration of the A Realm Reborn hunts and the Heavensward hunts, just with a different character model associated with it.
Here's my problem with hunts as opposed to NMs. And I'm not going to say there were, of course, Rock and Simurg and things like that, where you actually had to have some people who knew what they were doing. But if you did like a BCNM, right? You had 3 people maybe who go in, or 6 people go in. You had to look up a strategy. You had to learn how the fight worked and go in and do it. And of course, there were some broken strats that might be able to do it easier than others. But with this, every hunt, if I have a group of 18 or whatever, is go grab the hunt, go to where the hunt is, and watch the mob melt as I just mash my hand against the keyboard. Well, and that gets really repetitive.
Yes, okay, and I understand that, but I'm saying that NMs in FF11 could be as repetitive and as mechanical,
sure.
But there was something about the way that each of the different expansions, it presented the way to do NMs, right? Like that.
Yep.
There was something unique about every time they went back to this NM system, which that NMs made up the core of Final Fantasy XI's endgame. And the thing is that I feel like, and not just us, but the community at large had so much less criticism for this, the NMs that would just keep coming back again and again and again, and but we have all this criticism for things like hunts.
Right.
I'm just saying that they're remarkably similar things, but just presented slightly differently. And I'm wondering, like, if they had done something different with hunts, like anything different, where the participation process was slightly tweaked, or I don't know what they could have done with it, but had they changed it in the same way that in 11, they made a change to distinguish ZNMs from other poppable NMs that we had at the time. You know what I mean?
Well, take a look at Simurg, okay? Like, Simurg was a long spawn window. Only one group could get him. But if you happened to get him, and you happened to get the item that dropped off him, you were rich. And that was I was willing to put the time and effort into trying to get that. Whereas with hunts, it's a very simple process. I can do it an assembly line. It's just like, go to this station, do this, go to this station, do this.
Scott, I think the point you're trying to get to is what it comes down to, and we've talked about this in so many different ways for so many different things, is the reward structure.
Yeah.
Because just like how we're doing the same thing every single expansion with hunts, we're also doing it for the same reason, which is these little bloody log things that allow us to upgrade tome gear that we're grinding for.
And knowing exactly how many of them you're going to get, and exactly if I can sit there and say, here's the problem, is I can figure out, okay, it takes me exactly this long to go do this hunt, and I know I'm going to get this for doing it. If I can sit there and calculate out exactly how long I have to sit there pressing my button, if I could effectively macro it and let a machine play it for me, I don't want to do it. And that's what hunts feel like a lot of the time. It's like it's just gonna be me going back to the board.
I need 10 more rank A's, and then I'll be able to get the rest of my stuff.
Exactly. I need exactly 10 more rank A's, and each rank A takes me about 4 minutes to go do with a group.
And maybe if a log drops, I only need 8 more kills.
Yeah. So it's just like, back in the day, like, you know what? More of the time than not, like I farmed Jagged Ear Jack and Leaping Lizzie and all those stupid ones, had a stupid low drop rate, and you know what? More often than not, I spent 4 hours to get absolutely nothing. But the one time I got those leaping boots, oh man.
But I mean, like, and that's the thing, is that there was an investment, there was frustration, and no one's gonna deny that. It's not. We're not saying that it was a perfect system, or that it would be applicable here. I'm just saying, like, the presentation of it was different, and I feel like the reception of those systems was different as well, and I'm wondering why. And again, I think that you can draw an analog between content like NMs and content like hunts, but the fact that it's hunts and it hasn't changed from A Realm Reborn, that is probably the biggest detriment to what we're talking about.
Here's a thought process. If Final Fantasy XI's expansions all had a Dynamis zone as their end game,
like that was it?
Yeah, like Limbus was actually just Dynamis. Salvage was just a Dynamis zone. Every single end game was a Dynamis zone.
And they acknowledged that it was Dynamis. Like
it's Dynamis.
Literally Dynamis Ottergon.
Hey, welcome to Ottergon. We're going to be expanding Dynamis into Ottergon.
Right. Which, I mean, to be fair, they did do once. You did get the COP Dynamis zones, the Dreamland Dynamis zones.
Yeah, you're right.
But in the Dreamland Dynamis zones, there was all new mechanics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just
locked sub job. Oh, fuck Dreamland Dynamis.
Like, I just wonder if you know, like, there's just slight variations that you can do on some of this stuff, because, like, I get it. Like, developing an entirely new system is a lot of time and effort.
Yes.
And you do want to be able to work your development staff into a pattern, because then, you know, you work teams work best when they're worked into patterns, because
so that way you can produce more content.
The workflow is pretty well established, and you end up generally with pretty high quality stuff. Okay. And it's interesting in that Note Club documentary. Yoshi P talks a lot about his management style.
Yeah,
which is really interesting for me. That was really interesting to learn about. But I just, again, you know what, Kahlo, I think that you bring up a good point. The reward structure has a lot to do with it.
Always comes back to that.
I think that definitely has a lot to do with it. But I think it's got to be presentation. You know, like,
that would obviously help as well.
If you give us hunts, but stop like. It's not just not calling them hunts, but you've got to be able to
implement
take
them a little differently, and we'd be fine. Like, just a little bit different.
Take a look at, like, what's coming up. Like, yes, we have Evilise and Omega coming up, but what is that when you strip that away? It's the new 8-man and the new 24-man.
Right.
And we've had an 8-man and a 24-man in every one of these, and it's like, if I can break them down into those little categories like that, that's where it feels like it's the same thing with the new skin on it.
Even if they just change the amount of people and make it, like, not so much like boss, trash boss, like, just change it a little bit.
Nate, I actually, you just gave me, you reminded me of something. When I first got to Kugane and you get the quest, when they first start, like, sort of directing you towards the new hunt board, right? They started talking about my rank, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't have a rank. They're like, you've killed so many, why don't you have a rank? And I'm like, are they actually introducing some type of, like, rank up system? Because even if there was some type of just weird, and obviously in the end it wouldn't matter anything, some type of, like, progression, like you have to kill so many, you know, B ranks before you get access to, or the more you kill and the higher rank you get, the more seals you get from kills. Even something like that, I think, would have given it just a new feel.
Yeah,
a new take on it.
And I mean, functionally, you can have hunts presented almost exactly the same with a little twist, and I think that goes down a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Like, from a design standpoint, but like, if you could limit the number of people who can attack them, Like if you,
That's a big design change.
it's
though.
a big design change, but like that would change hunts on a fundamental
it would.
level.
Yeah.
And maybe that would be a little bit more interesting. Now the problem you're going to run into is eventually people aren't going to be doing hunts, and then you're going to be screwed.
That is, and I think that's really the problem. And again, it stands in stark contrast to Final Fantasy XI, where you talk about things like Dynamis. Did Dynamis ever stop happening?
Oh no, Dynamis still
Never.
goes on today.
Because you still
You can
need the
solo
currency
it,
for
but-
relic.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can solo
or
Dynamis today,
the-
but you still
Or
do
there's
it.
certain gear that was just synonymous. Like if you were a thief, you had to have assassin's armlets. Period.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play Dragoon, you had to have the headpiece.
So
If you wanted to be a red mage, you had to have red mage AF2.
So I think the one question mark that exists here in Stormblood that we don't know exactly how that's going to end up shaking out is Eureka.
Eureka.
Yeah.
That's really it.
I don't like
And
having to
Relic
put so
Weapon.
much of my
I don't
hope on
want to put all my
something.
stock on Eureka though.
Yeah,
Everyone
What
just
else is
talk
there
at
to put
once.
stock on.
Everyone just talk at once.
sorry, I was
because
talking.
that's a really good way to do a radio show.
But to be fair, we're all saying the same exact thing. We are like that's where it's going to be, and if it fails, like what do we have to look forward to? At that point?
and no one has confidence in it.
Well, I think that's a real problem. That the community doesn't really have confidence in the ability for the proposed endgame, and the thing that changes in this iteration to be better. Because again, Palace of the Dead, I know I bag on it a little bit, or people think that I really don't like Palace of the Dead. It was fine. It was serviceable.
Yeah.
It wasn't what it could have been.
No, it could have been better, but as an event goes, like you look at that and you're like, if you're on thumbs up, thumbs down system, thumbs up.
Yeah.
You did well.
Sure.
If you look at Diadem, thumbs down.
That's objectively a thumbs down.
Aquapolis.
Thumbs
Yeah,
up.
thumbs up. Thumbs up. It was okay. I mean, short, sweet. You get some shit out
Yeah,
of
it
it.
was fun.
Verminion, 2 thumbs down.
Yeah.
Double thumbs down.
I mean, you don't get much worse than Verminion.
No. I mean, at least they have that to look forward to. It's hard to do worse.
That is true.
They've hit the bottom of the barrel. They've had their
Square Enix, hold my beer.
they've had their ballista.
But
It's
the
not
thing
getting
is
worse.
that's their bottom of the barrel in terms of side quests and mini games. Like,
But I mean, like,
that's
there's.
if they put in Blitzball, it would never be as bad as Verminion. However, that's also not endgame and what we're looking forward to.
True.
so.
But there is absolutely something to be said for monotony in an MMO. You have to break up your play style. You have to. I mean, at some point, Juxta, during World of Warcraft, when did you notice a big variation or a big shift that felt really satisfying?
What do you mean?
In any way, shape, or form. Like,
Doesn't WoW change it up at every expansion?
yeah, because I guess that's what I'm asking. Like, do you feel like in the time that you've played WoW that as it is updated, that like you walk away with feeling more satisfied with what Blizzard did with World of Warcraft than what Square Enix is doing with Final Fantasy XIV?
Yeah, because like Nika said, like basically every expansion they try to really shake up the game and like round off the edges. Like the talent system, the very first talent system they had was basically junk because everyone chose the same build every time.
Right.
So many expansions later, they took that shit out, put in a new talent system, which gave you meaningful choices. People complained because you had, quote, less choices, but in reality, you actually had more choices because each choice was mostly viable.
Right. You
And
could still
each-
pick some garbage ones, but for the most part.
for the most part, they're pretty evenly balanced.
Whereas before
And-
it was one.
Right,
You had
exactly.
the one choice in reality.
And the reason why that's really important is because Blizzard like noticed that change had to happen. Like the whole talent system was flawed, and so they had to take steps to drastically alter the game to make it better overall. And in doing so, you had to weather the storm of people bitching and complaining that change is bad. We fear change.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember Wrath of the Lich King? They introduced the contested zone.
Oh yeah,
That was
Wintergrass.
awesome. Wintergrass. That was awesome.
Yep.
And a big change in that expansion.
And I think that there was at least some of that expectation to be here. Like, we're going into a conflict for with Alamigo. Like, it would have been a good opportunity to make something like a contested zone. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I agree.
And so
it really would have been. And we had 2 continents to do it in.
Yeah.
We had Alamigo and we had Doma.
and yet it didn't happen. And the thing is that I can't figure out if it's just I think there's a little bit of fear. There's got to be a little bit of fear that's driving this. Like,
Yeah.
They were able.
Are they afraid of the game becoming 1.0 again?
I think so.
I feel like, especially with everybody's like, I mean, they claim they're listening to us. So I feel like with everyone saying like, we're kind of getting bored.
I feel like during Heaven's Ward, right? Like, and especially after watching, at least, because I haven't watched all of the no clip stuff, and I'm going to, but I feel like, knowing what I know about some of the sentiments about 1.0, that some of the decision making is driven by, well, we don't want to backslide. If we try too many things and we try to break the mold too quickly, that we're going to end up backsliding into 1.0.
We're going to get that mess again. But you can't, on the other side of it, you can't stagnate. You have to be willing to take a risk.
Yes.
I mean, and we got that statement from Yoshi P back in the middle of Heaven's Ward that he was willing to start taking risks. And what happened? They released Diadem, it failed, and he's scared
It
now?
failed twice. It failed twice. And yeah, as a developer, I think when you get it wrong twice in a row, that can shake your confidence.
Sure, but
But they had a win with Palace of the Dead.
well, and at the same time,
And let's look at the fucking Halloween event. They're talking about it in our chat now too. Like, that was what we wanted: different objectives, a map to explore. Like, fuck,
the Halloween event was great.
everyone loved that. Like, I really hope, because they do say that they're going to change Palace of the Dead when we get, or change Deep Dungeon when we get the next one. So they have potential there too to expand on that, and I hope to God that.
Well, and Skrull's making a point right now. The first failure of Diadem really wasn't.
Skrull's making
I
a
know,
point?
but he's not wrong in this. The first failure of Diadem wasn't as bad as the second one was.
Yeah.
And the second one was bad because it was reusing a system that people didn't want to see again.
Yeah,
we were so sick of Fates, and then we had to do it again.
You're right. Like, I think that people gave Diadem 1.0 more of a chance than they gave Diadem 2.0.
yeah, I still have never done it.
People bailed out of Diadem
2.0.
like so fast. And the thing is like okay, if I'm Square Enix, like, what do I do to fix that? You know what I mean? Like,
you just scrap it and put in something new. Don't even try to revamp it. They're trying to revamp it. The 2.0, they should have totally scrapped it and put in something totally new.
I mean, yes, that's nice to say in abstract, but like, what do you actually do? You know, like, in terms of mechanically,
keep the zone design. I guess that was fine.
Right.
But literally take everything that you have about Diadem and throw it out the window, and you do what World of Warcraft did with the talents, and you say, okay, this talent system, junk, throw it out. We're going to do something completely different that barely has any relevance to the old talent system.
But the development team did exactly that with 1.0. They made that hard decision of, do we junk the entirety of 1.0 and start fresh with 2.0, and
it worked out.
And it did work out. You're absolutely right. That was they took a risk, and it ended up going well for them. And I say that to encourage Square Enix taking more risks. Now, again, Diadem was a risk. They acknowledged that it was a risk, and it didn't work out. Okay, that's fine. What'd you learn from it? That's, I think, the biggest question that I'd like to ask Yoshi P or any of the dev team. What did you learn from Diadem? What'd you learn?
And was what you learned, don't use Fates as the core of your system anymore.
Well, and how do you then try to find what is satisfying about your system and about your game? Because I think the problem is that following Alexander, there are far too many of these people that were going, Steps of Faith is too hard, and Raids it's too hard. Like, and Square Enix like really took that at face value. And again, I think a lot of what they've said so far, that they're not going to consider complaints about difficulty, I think it's smart. Like, they need to do that. I think that, and again, this is for any creative person that's out there. Your audience has the ability to work its way into your fucking